You never expect your life to change because of a phone call. But sometimes, a single moment of truth can overturn all the assumptions people have made about you. We'll see that in a moment. For Maya Richardson, that moment came one afternoon in the lobby of the Grand Sterling Hotel. Maya was scrubbing the marble floor on her knees next to the ornate fountain when her phone vibrated in her uniform pocket. Normally, she never answered her phone during working hours. The cleaning supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, had made that rule very clear. But when she saw the number, her heart began to race. She knew she had to answer. Amsterdam University. After waiting 6 months, they were finally calling about her graduate scholarship application. She absolutely had to answer. Maya quickly glanced around. The lobby was relatively quiet. Only a few guests were checking in at the reception desk, and a businessman was reading a newspaper in one of the leather armchairs. Miss Patterson was nowhere to be seen. Maya stepped behind one of the massive marble columns and quietly answered the phone. "This is Maya Richardson," she said. The voice on the other end was speaking Dutch. Professor van der Berg from the linguistics department was calling to discuss her application to the International Language Studies program. This was fantastic news. The news she had been waiting for months had arrived. Maya immediately replied in fluent Dutch, her pronunciation flawless, and explained her thesis proposal on multilingual communication patterns in the hospitality industry. She had been learning Dutch for 4 years, and had also learned French, Mandarin, and Spanish languages she had taught herself late into the night after grueling cleaning shifts. 28-year-old Maya had very dark skin, intelligent eyes that constantly absorbed everything around her, and a mind that refused to bow to the limitations of circumstance. She had earned a bachelor's degree in linguistics from a state university, working full-time at this hotel while she studied. For the past 6 years she had been invisible, just another black woman in a blue cleaning uniform, someone guest passed by without really seeing. But now, speaking Dutch in the lobby of a luxury hotel, she had forgotten to be invisible. "Ik begrijp het, professor. Mijn motivatiebrief moet volgende week." "You understand, professor. My motivation letter must be submitted next week," she said. She stopped mid-sentence, suddenly aware of the silence around her. When she looked up, Maya found herself staring at Alexander Whitmore, owner of the Grand Sterling hotel chain. The man standing 5 meters away, in a custom-tailored charcoal suit, was probably worth more than Maya's 3 months' salary. There was an undisguised look of shock on his face. Next to him stood the housekeeping manager, Mrs. Patterson, her face contorted with anger. Maya's stomach knotted. "Ik moet gaan. Ik bel u later terug," she said quickly into the phone. "I have to go. I'll call you back later." She hung up and slowly got to her feet, the cleaning supplies forgotten on the floor. "Richardson, to my office." Now Mrs. Patterson's voice rang out, sharp enough to cut glass. Walking to the basement office, she felt as if she were walking in a funeral procession. Maya was well aware that the other cleaning staff were watching her, some with sympathy, others barely hiding their satisfaction. She was the only one with a university degree, which made her both respected and envied among her colleagues. Miss Patterson slammed the office door. "You know the rules. No personal phone calls during working hours, especially in guest areas," she responded very harshly. "I'm sorry, Miss Patterson. It was the university calling," Maya replied. But she could see the indifference in Miss Patterson's eyes. The only thing that mattered to her was the hotel's operations. "I don't care if it's the president calling. You were talking on the phone during working hours, neglecting your duties. And in front of Mr. Whitmore, too," said Miss Patterson. Maya bit her tongue. She wanted to point out that the white receptionists were constantly making personal phone calls. That head receptionist Jennifer spent half her shift texting her boyfriend. But she knew very well how this conversation would end. "I'm assigning you to the convention center for the next 3 months, continued Miss Patterson. "Maybe cleaning the event hall's restrooms will remind you to focus on your actual job instead of the imaginary life you live on the phone," she said. It was obvious she wanted to torment Maya. The convention center assignment was clearly a punishment. Working double shifts after corporate events meant cleaning up after hundreds of people, often working until midnight without overtime pay. "Yes, ma'am," Maya said quietly, "and be grateful you weren't fired. Now get out," Miss Patterson ordered. That night, Maya sat in her small studio apartment, staring at her framed linguistics diploma on the wall. She had applied to the hotel's International Guest Services department for 6 years. For 6 years, she was told there are no open positions, while less qualified white employees were promoted to those very positions. The hotel was openly practicing racial discrimination. Because she stayed, her salary covered her rent, and she was slowly, painfully saving money for graduate school. But moments like today made her question everything. The phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but then she saw it was an unknown internal number from the hotel. "Hello?" Maya answered. "Ms. Richardson, this is Jennifer from Human Resources. Mr. Whitmore would like to speak with you tomorrow morning. At 9 o'clock in the executive office, she said. Maya was shocked by what she heard, but she also felt a great fear inside. She wondered if she would be fired from the hotel. Did he say what it was about? She asked. No, ma'am. He just said it was urgent, said Jennifer. After the phone call ended, Maya sat in the dark, her mind racing. Whitmore had probably told Human Resources to make it official, to fire the cleaning staff who were embarrassing the hotel by making personal phone calls in the lobby, she told herself. She had to start looking for another job immediately. The next morning, Maya arrived at the hotel at 8:30 a.m., her stomach in knots. The executive offices were on the top floor. She had only ever visited this area after hours to empty the trash cans. She had never been here during working hours, never ridden the elevator with the managers and executives who ran the hotel. This would be a first for her. In the elevator, she felt invisible again. Two managers in expensive suits were discussing their quarterly earnings and completely ignored her presence, even though she was standing right next to them. The Human Resources manager, a sharp-eyed woman named Carol Chen, met her in front of Whitmore's office. Miss Richardson, please come in, she said. Maya was in turmoil. Whitmore's office was larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city. The walls were covered with awards and photographs. Pictures of Whitmore with celebrities, politicians, and at charity galas were everywhere. Alexander Whitmore sat behind an enormous desk. 43 years old, Whitmore was known in the business world as the man who transformed struggling hotels into luxury destinations. He looked up when Maya entered, his expression very ambiguous. Miss Richardson, please sit down, he said. Maya sat down stiffly in the leather chair, prepared for the worst. Whitmore opened a file on his desk. Dutch, French, Mandarin, and Spanish, all fluent. Is that correct? He asked. Maya blinked in surprise. A bachelor's degree in linguistics from State University. You graduated with honors. Currently, while working full-time in our housekeeping department, you are enrolled in online graduate courses, he continued. Sir, I can explain what happened yesterday, Maya said. Whitmore raised his hand. I'm not here to reprimand you, Miss Richardson. I'm here because yesterday I heard you speaking Dutch with perfect pronunciation and discussing something like academic research. That's why I asked Human Resources to bring your file, said Alexander Whitmore. He leaned back in his chair and studied her. I'm curious. Why is someone with your qualifications cleaning toilets instead of working in our International Guest Services department? He asked. The question hung in the air. Maya chose her words carefully. I've applied for a job in that department 17 times over the last 6 years, sir. I never received a response, she replied. 17 times. Whitmore wrote something down. Who reviewed these applications, he asked. I believe it was Mr. Morrison, the guest services manager, and Ms. Patterson, who approves internal transfers, she said. Whitmore's face darkened slightly. I see, he replied. He closed the folder and looked directly at Maya. Ms. Richardson, a major international business conference starts tomorrow. Dutch and Chinese executives, 3 days of meetings and social events. I need someone who is fluent in both languages and understands cross-cultural communication, he said. This was an incredible opportunity for Maya. It could be the job of her life. She could finally reap the rewards of all her hard work. Maya's heart began to race. I would like to offer you the position of temporary international liaison coordinator for this event. The pay is $2,000 a day. You can start immediately, said Alexander Whitmore. Maya felt like she was going to fall out of her chair. This was more than she earned in a month. Sir, I don't understand. Why me? She asked. Because I heard your speech yesterday. Because I reviewed your qualifications. And because I've started to think there's something very wrong with how this hotel treats its talented employees, he replied. An hour later, Maya left Whitmore's office with a new security card, access to the executive floors, and instructions to report immediately to the conference planning team. She ran into Miss Patterson by the elevators. The manager's face fell when she saw Maya's new card. Richardson, what are you doing here? She started, but Maya cut her off, her voice professional. International Liaison Coordinator, she said. Mr. Whitmore's direct appointment. Ms. Patterson's mouth opened and closed. You don't have the qualifications for this, she stammered. Bachelor's degree in linguistics, fluent in 4 languages including Dutch and Mandarin, Maya said calmly. My applications have been on file with the hotel for 6 years, along with 17 internal transfer requests. She walked past the speechless manager toward her new position, holding her head high for the first time in years. What Maya didn't know was that this was only the beginning. Whitmore's investigation into the blocked applications would uncover a pattern of discrimination so systematic and deeply ingrained in the hotel's culture that its consequences would change not only Maya's life, but the entire organization. Sometimes justice doesn't come in the form of a dramatic revelation. Sometimes it begins simply with being seen, truly seen, for who one really is. The International Business Conference was very different from anything Maya had experienced before. For 3 days she facilitated meetings between Dutch investors and Chinese tech entrepreneurs, translated complex business terminology, navigated cultural nuances, and prevented misunderstandings that could have cost millions. She was amazing, and everyone knew it. On the final evening, Alexander Whitmore approached her during the closing reception. "Miss Richardson, a moment?" They moved to a quiet corner. Whitmore's expression was serious. "I've been conducting an investigation over the past 3 days, regarding your blocked applications and other concerning issues in our hiring and promotion practices." Maya's heart raced. "I need to ask you directly, have you experienced discrimination at this hotel?" Maya took a breath. She could play it safe and protect herself by downplaying everything. Or she could tell the truth. "Yes, sir. Tell me everything." Maya did just that. She described how her applications kept disappearing. She recounted how Ms. Patterson told her, "People like you don't fit the image we want for positions that involve face-to-face contact with guests." She explained how less qualified white employees were promoted to positions she had applied for. She described how the cleaning staff, especially Black and Latin workers, were treated as invisible. Whitmore listened without interruption, his jaw tightening with each new piece of information. "And it's not just me," Maya continued. "There's Carmen in the laundry room. She has an accounting degree. There's James in maintenance. He has a degree in electrical engineering. We're all overqualified. We're all stuck in the basement. Give me their names, all of them." 2 days later, Whitmore called an emergency meeting. The conference room on the executive floor filled with department heads, human resources staff, and to everyone's surprise, several cleaning and maintenance workers. Maya was sitting at the table, no longer in her blue uniform but wearing a professional blazer that Whitmore's assistant had helped her buy. Carmen and James were sitting next to her, looking uncomfortable but determined. Whitmore stood at the head of the table. "I'll be blunt. Last week I found evidence of systematic discrimination in our hiring and promotion practices. Qualified employees, most of them Black, were deliberately kept in low-level positions, while less qualified individuals were promoted." The room erupted. Department heads began interrupting each other to defend their decisions. "Silence." Whitmore's voice cut through the noise. "I have documents, unprocessed applications, missing transfer requests, and statements from numerous employees describing the same patterns of discrimination." He looked directly at Patterson. "You told Richardson that people like him didn't fit our image of someone who interacts with guests. Would you like to explain that comment?" Patterson's face paled. "That was taken out of context." "Is that so?" "Because I documented similar comments you made about Carmen Ruiz, James Chen, and 3 other employees. All of them are people of color. All of them were told their qualifications were insufficient for promotion." Guest Services Manager David Morrison spoke defensively. "We have standards for international positions, specific educational requirements." "Ms. Richardson speaks 4 languages fluently," Whitmore interrupted. "She has a degree in linguistics. What special training does Jennifer Hall have that Ms. Richardson doesn't?" Silence. "Let me tell you. Jennifer has a high school diploma and took a weekend seminar on customer service. But she's white. And apparently that's qualification enough." Morrison's face flushed. "That's not fair." "What's not fair?" Whitmore said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Is this hotel wasting extraordinary talent under the guise of standards due to prejudice?" He opened another folder. "Over the past 6 years, we've paid over $300,000 to outside translators for services Ms. Richardson could have provided. We've received numerous guest complaints about cultural communication issues that her expertise could have prevented. We've lost business because we couldn't properly serve international customers, while an employee with exactly the skills we needed was cleaning rooms." The room fell silent. "Effective immediately," Whitmore continued, "I will subject all hiring and promotion decisions made in the last 5 years to a comprehensive audit. Ms. Patterson, you are suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. Mr. Morrison, you are placed on probation, and to ensure this never happens again, I am creating a new position, Director of Inclusive Excellence." He looked at Maya. "Ms. Richardson, I would like to offer you this position. The starting salary is $85,000, plus benefits." Maya's eyes filled with tears. This was more than triple her current salary. "Also," Whitmore added, "the hotel will cover all expenses for your master's program at the University of Amsterdam, including living expenses." Ms. Patterson suddenly stood up. "This is ridiculous. You're ruining this hotel's standards because one employee complained." "An employee?" Carmen spoke for the first time, her voice trembling but determined. "I have an accounting degree. I've been doing laundry for 8 years, and I've watched people half as qualified as me get hired for the positions I applied for. That's not a standard. That's discrimination. I have patents," James added quietly, "in electrical engineering. But I change light bulbs and fix broken toilets because apparently that's all I can do." Other employees began to speak up. Stories poured out of years of being ignored, fired, told they weren't quite right for opportunities for which they were more than qualified. Whitmore, with a stern expression, allowed the talking to continue. When the room finally fell silent, he spoke again. "This ends now. We're not just correcting individual cases. We're rebuilding the entire organization's operations." In the months that followed, the changes were dramatic. Maya's new role was to review every application, every promotion, every hiring decision based on actual qualifications rather than subjective fit. Carmen moved to the accounting department. James joined the facilities management team as an engineer. After the investigation uncovered years of discriminatory practices, Ms. Patterson was fired. Morrison was demoted and required to undergo extensive training before returning to a management position. But the real transformation happened in more subtle ways. It happened when employees who had been invisible for years suddenly began to be heard. It happened when talents who had always been there, just waiting to be recognized, were promoted. The hotel's reputation transformed from a place that looked impressive from the outside but harbored ugly truths beneath, to an organization truly committed to real excellence, measured by talent rather than appearance. 6 months after that phone call in Dutch, Maya was standing in the hotel lobby again. But this time she wasn't busy scrubbing the floors on her knees. She was conducting a training session for new managers on recognizing and developing talent at all levels of the organization. "The biggest mistake we make," she told the group, "is judging someone's abilities based on their current position or appearance. Every person in this hotel has a story, skills, dreams, potential we never even noticed." She paused for a moment and looked at the marble column where she had hidden to make that fateful phone call. 6 months ago, I was invisible in this lobby. Not because my qualifications were lacking, but because people chose not to see me. How many talented people are we still overlooking? After the training, Alexander Whitmore approached her. "The board has approved your talent development program proposal. We will implement this program across all 15 properties in the chain." Maya smiled. "What about the scholarship fund?" "Fully funded. Each year, we'll support 5 employees to pursue a master's degree, while continuing to work here with flexible hours. This will change lives." "It already has," Whitmore said quietly. "Starting with yours. And to be honest, Ms. Richardson, finding you was a stroke of luck. Pure luck. I was passing through that lobby the moment you answered the phone. How many extraordinarily talented people have I walked past without noticing? How many talents have we buried under uniforms and prejudices?" This was a question Maya had asked herself many times. What matters is what we do now. A year after that phone call, Maya was presenting her master's thesis on language barriers in the international hospitality industry at the University of Amsterdam. Professor van der Berg introduced her to the faculty. "Maya Richardson has achieved something extraordinary. She didn't just study these issues academically, she actively transformed them in practice." Her thesis included case studies on Grand Sterling's transformation, data showing that recognizing language skills among existing staff increased guest satisfaction by 43%, while reducing translation costs by 60%. Evidence that diversity in roles involving face-to-face customer interaction led to higher ratings from international travelers. But the most compelling parts were the personal ones. The stories of Carmen, James, and dozens of other employees whose lives changed because someone finally recognized their potential. After the presentation, a young black woman approached Maya. She was a janitor at the university. "I heard your story," she said quietly. "I have a degree in hotel management, but I've been cleaning classrooms for 3 years. Everyone tells me I should be grateful just to have a job." Maya looked at her, really looked at her. She saw the intelligence in her eyes, the disappointment in her posture. She saw herself a year ago. "What's your name?" "Aminata. Aminata, I want you to send me your resume, today, and I want you to apply for a position at Grand Sterling. We're looking for someone for our European expansion team." She handed Aminata her card. "Grand Sterling International, Director of Inclusive Excellence." "But more importantly," Maya continued, "I want you to stop being grateful for less than you deserve. You have qualifications, you have skills, you have a value that has nothing to do with whether people recognize it. Don't wait for someone to happen to hear you speak Dutch. Make yourself seen." Aminata's eyes welled up. "Thank you." That evening, as Maya walked back to her hotel, she thought about how close she had come to never having this life. If Whitmore hadn't been in that lobby, if he hadn't answered that phone, if she had been too afraid to speak Dutch where others could hear her, out there, bright and invisible, how many Aminatas were waiting for someone to notice? She pulled out her phone and emailed Whitmore. "We need to expand the talent recognition program beyond our own company. An industry-wide initiative. I'll send the proposal." The reply came within minutes. "Approved in principle. Let's change the entire industry." Maya smiled. A year ago, she was scrubbing floors, her potential buried under her blue uniform and others' prejudices. Today, she was rewriting the rules of the entire industry, all because she had the courage to answer a Dutch phone call. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is to be yourself completely, without regret, visibly, in environments where you're expected to be small and quiet. Mayor Richardson had learned this lesson on her knees in a hotel lobby. Now she was teaching it to the world.